After the chaos and insanity of the latest triple header through the US, Mexico, and Brazil, the Formula One circus took a well-deserved break. That break is over, and the action returns to Sin City, and F1 Break Check is back to help get you ready. Whether you're here to listen to two nerds talk about the sport they love, or you're just here for a good laugh, we have something for you. We'll also have a new biography for you today, and Corey will scramble my brain with our Stump the Pundit section. So grab a cocktail and settle in while the teams are prepping. F1 Break Check is hitting on 17.
Welcome. You are listening to F1 Break Check, the epic podcast for all things Formula One, where we discuss technology, history, news, and perspective. With your hosts, Scott Vick and Corey Broom.
All right, so it's time for us to get into our biography. So this is one that we actually recorded this a couple weeks ago, but due to technical difficulties, that particular episode is lost to the sands of history. So we're gonna jump into it again because I think this is one of the more notable biographies that we've done to date. His name is etched in the annals of Formula One history. He was a man who flirted with greatness, but in the cruel theater of motorsports, never quite grasped his golden prize. Born on April 12, 1942, in Santa Fe, Argentina, Carlos Reutemann's rise to prominence was far from ordinary. He began as a quiet, determined young man who would eventually go toe-to-toe with legends, dancing on the edge of motorsport's most elusive crown. Reutemann's journey into Formula One began in 1972 with the vaunted Brabham team, a team headed by the relentless Bernie Ecclestone. In his debut at the Argentine Grand Prix, he stunned the racing world by securing pole position. He did not win that race, but he had made an announcement to the world. Carlos Reutemann was not to be ignored. The Argentine had a unique style. Where other drivers were fiery, brash, and aggressive, Reutemann was cool and calculating, earning him the nickname Lowell. But this calm demeanor concealed an inner fire, an intense desire for victory that burned behind his focused gaze. His battles with some of the sport's greatest, Mario Andretti, Ronnie Peterson, Alan Jones, and many others, became the stuff of legend. Yet time and again, the Argentine was forced to play second fiddle, enduring the agony of watching others take a title that was so nearly his. In 1976, Reutemann switched to Ferrari, one of the most prestigious teams in Formula One. The move was dramatic, signaling his arrival in the big leagues, but fate had other plans. Though he won races and challenged for the championship, the Italian dream quickly became bittersweet. The shadow of teammate Niki Lauda, Ferrari's golden boy, loomed large, and Reutemann found himself once again in the role of the understudy. He parted ways with Ferrari after 2 seasons, leaving behind what could have been an empire built in scarlet. But Reutemann's greatest heartbreak would come later, during his time at Williams. In 1981, it seemed that everything was falling into place. He entered the final race of the season, the Las Vegas Grand Prix at Caesars Palace, leading the championship standings. That was it. The moment of destiny. The moment where Carlos Reutemann would silence the doubters, silence the demons, and finally etch his name into motorsport's immortality. But racing is rarely so kind. Despite starting from pole position, Reutemann's car faltered. His teammate Alan Jones stormed to victory, while Reutemann sank down the order, finishing a crushing 8th. The title slipped through his fingers, and with it, his chance for glory. It was perhaps the most dramatic near miss in Formula One history, leaving fans and pundits alike to wonder what could have been. Carlos Reutemann retired from Formula One in 1982, having won 12 Grand Prix, 6 pole positions, 45 podiums, and finishing as a championship runner-up twice. He was a driver defined by moments of brilliance, but also by moments of heartbreaking misfortune. Post-racing, he returned to Argentina, where he transitioned to politics, serving as a governor and a senator. Reutemann passed away on July 7, 2021, at the age of 79 in his beloved hometown of Santa Fe, Argentina. Carlos Reutemann may never have claimed the ultimate prize in motorsport, but his legacy endures as a symbol of determination, grace under pressure, and the line between triumph and tragedy in the world of Formula One. So there you have it. That's our history lesson for this week. Corey, what's your thoughts on Mr. Reutemann?
Yeah, I've heard the name several times. I would say I know about him, but not to this detail. So it's really interesting, especially knowing that he was opposite of Niki Lauda, because Niki Lauda obviously outshined pretty much everybody you see so many highly talented drivers in Formula One, even today, that they're just not as talented as the people that like the Max Verstappens or the Lewis Hamiltons out there. They're just not to that caliber, but they're just as talented drivers. And it's such a shame that sometimes they just never get quite to that level. So,
Yep.
heartbreak.
Oh yeah,
all
absolutely.
Just listening to you retell the story, I'm just gut wrenching.
Oh yeah.
Especially when he goes to Williams and comes so close.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and that's why I think that's why I really do like doing these biography sections from time to time on the off race weekends, is because this gives us a chance to not only talk about, the great champions, if you haven't listened to our biography of Niki Lauda, I thought we kind of took a little more interesting take on it and everything. So, go back and listen to it. But I also think that it's important to take and talk about some of the other, almost, drivers, which I know that sounds kind of bad, but but for every, world champion, there's 3 or 4 drivers who were truly great drivers, but who just, for whatever circumstances, just never quite seemed to catch the break that they needed to be a world champion. Is like, our biography of Johnny Herbert a couple weeks ago. Same thing. I mean, this guy had blinding speed. And when he was coming up through the junior ranks, he was really touted as being even, faster than some of the greats, because even in comparable machinery, I mean, he was faster than guys like Schumacher. And, and if he had the brakes, if he hadn't had that terrible accident at Brands Hatch that, tore his legs up so badly, Johnny Herbert, I really do believe that Johnny Herbert could have been a world champion. Yeah. But just motorsport can be a very fickle and cruel mistress. You really can't be. All right, so let's move on to my favorite part of every single show that we started. We started this segment, I think, what was it, earlier this year, or was it late last year?
No, it was earlier this year, yeah.
Okay, so it was earlier this year, but this is absolutely my favorite time of the week. This is a chance where Corey takes and he gets to learn a little bit more about F1 by trying to come up with trivia questions that will scramble up my minuscule brain with my, minuscule knowledge of Formula One and its history. So, Corey, take it away. What do you got for me this week?
All right. So this week, actually just a few days ago, Damon Hill announced and really shocked pretty much everybody in F1 that he decided to leave Sky Sports. So I figured, hey, how well does Scott know Damon Hill? We follow him on Twitter or on X, and I believe, doesn't he follow us the podcast? Doesn't he follow the podcast?
Yeah, he does actually.
Yeah. So he was one of the first actually to follow us on X. So anyway, I thought, well, let's test Scott's knowledge.
I can't wait, because Damon is one of my favorite people in the whole world. So I can't wait.
I was hoping to stump you. Let's see. Let's see how close I get. You'll probably get a few of these then. All right. So what year did Damon Hill win the F1 championship?
1996.
Exactly. Yep. And who did he win it for?
Williams.
Yep. Security. He got 8 wins that season.
But a lot of people forget that was also because Jacques Villeneuve, who won the championship in 1997 for Williams, came on very late in the year and really started to challenge Damon towards the latter half of the year, and came very close to winning the championship. But Damon took a brilliant victory at Britain for the British Grand Prix that year, and just never really looked back.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Well, that kills my second question though. So
sorry.
Who was Damon Hill's primary teammate?
That would have been Jacques Villeneuve.
Already answered, yes.
Yes.
All right. Number 3. Damon Hill is the son of what former F1 world champion?
Graham Hill.
Graham Hill. I think you're going to get all these in. I was hoping to stump you a few times. Yeah, so Graham Hill actually, he won the championship twice in 62 and 68.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 4. So after Williams, after Damon left Williams in 96, where did he go after that? Which team?
Arrows.
Yeah. In 97. And number 5, you're batting 1,000 here so far. What was Damon Hill's first Formula One victory, and which Grand Prix did it occur?
Oh, it was 1994. I can't remember if it was Hungary or Spain. It was one of the two. I'm going to go with Hungary.
Hungary is correct, but you have the year wrong. It's 93.
Oh, you are correct.
Off by 1 year.
Yes, I'm off by a year.
Yeah. So you do know Damon Hill.
Like I said, Damon is probably one of my favorite people in the whole world. And so I have been a huge fan of his for a very, very long time. So yeah, so I do know quite a bit about Damon.
Nice. And just real quick, I know we're going to be short on time, but real quick, what are your thoughts about Damon leaving Sky Sports?
I'm very sad about it. I thought he brought a lot of really great insight to the telecast, and he's going to be very, very much missed. I'm gonna be really sad to not see him. I know he wasn't a week in and week out regular like some of the other drivers, like Brundle and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I will miss him being on the telecasts.
Yeah, same here.
So let's get into our news section. We've got a lot to talk about today, so let's dive right into it. Okay, so first thing is that a couple weeks ago we got the news that Sauber has made its decision on the second seat next to Nico Hülkenberg for next year and beyond, and Bottas and Joe Granu are both out at Sauber, and they are going with a rookie driver for 2025. So your thoughts first off, Corey, on Bottas being out and Sauber's decision to go with a rookie driver next to the much highly touted Hülkenberg.
As much as it pains me to say this, I think that's the right decision for them. I love Bottas. I've said this a bazillion times on this podcast and privately. I'm a huge fan of him. But with that being said, in the interest of the team, I think that having Hülkenberg there and then having a rookie driver, I think that is definitely the way to go, especially their first few seasons out. I think that that's really the right call.
Yeah, no, I kind of figured that you would. Well, honestly, I wasn't quite sure which way you were going to land on that because I know how much you love Bottas, and I love Bottas too. But I do agree with you that I think that with as horrible as a year this has been for Sauber, and you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, that we really don't see Sauber scoring any points at all this year, and they're going to finish dead last in the constructors. So I think that it's definitely a good thing for them to take and have a truly fresh start from the driver perspective. So I think that it's a good thing, but at the same time I do think it is really it's a very magnanimous way for Bottas to bow out. This is a guy who has won multiple races. The
guy has a stellar career, no doubt about it. I mean, he still holds some of the fastest laps.
Yes, he still holds the fastest lap and fastest race record in Mexico and in several other places.
Yep.
So I think it's really, his exit is not befitting his talent and his personality.
Yep.
But I do agree that I do think that it's time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would still like to see him at Haas.
But no, but we know that that's not going to happen.
I know. Hope is
So
gone. The only hope that we have now is that he goes over to IndyCar. And honestly, I'm such a fan of Bottas. I may endure IndyCar just for a little while. As long as it's not
IndyCar's
NASCAR. As long as it's not NASCAR, I'm good.
Yeah, well, IndyCar is, it can
Yeah, you're a
be
fan
at
of it, right?
times. Yeah, I'm a fan of IndyCar. I'm getting to the point where I can't stand the NBC's telecast anymore because they try to do it too much like a NASCAR race,
Yeah.
and it's totally, so the announcers bug the absolute living crap out of me. But I don't have a problem with, uh, turning on the race and turning the volume off.
Yeah, play some music in the
So I don't have to
background.
listen to the
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. We've talked about Botas. So what are your thoughts on Bortoleto? What do you think that, you said that you think Sauber made the right call in, tapping him for the second seat at Sauber next year. So your thoughts?
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job in the lower circuits. So,
Mm-hmm.
or in the lower
Yeah, he's
series.
currently leading the F2 championship.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, he by no means is a slouch. It'll be very
Yeah,
interesting to
no.
see what he can do on the grid. Because as we both know, you're not just dealing with the race. It's all the stress
Yes.
behind the race that is also playing into the mentality of the driver. So it's going to be really interesting to see how a young person like him can handle this. But we've seen it before. I mean, look at Behrman. He looks like
Absolutely.
he looks like he's a veteran at this point. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
moves him. He's like a robot, just a machine
Yes,
there, just driving
he
along.
is.
Yeah.
And he's only 18 years old. That's
That's
the
what I'm
part that
saying. I know. It's
blows my
mind
mind.
blowing.
Yeah. So but I think that Bortoleto is going to be one of those rare talents where he's not only going to be able to take and handle the demands of driving the car itself, but all of the extra stuff that's going to go along with, making that jump from F2 to F1, especially because of the fact that he's leading the F2 championship and seems to be pretty much a lock. Unless he really screws something up, he's going to be a lock to secure the F2 championship. And I think that, I definitely think that he's going to be able to handle the media duties and all the other stuff that goes along with it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope so. He seems like he's going to be really very well qualified. Looks like, from everything that I've been reading and seeing, he looks like perhaps another Verstappen. So we'll see.
Yep. So with this news, though, of Bortoleto getting the call up to take over the seat at Sauber, 2025 is going to mark a significant difference between the drivers in 2024 and 2025, because this year in 2024 we had the unprecedented fact that not one single driver changed between 2023 and 2024. And now with the difference between the grid in 2024 and 2025 is the fact that we're going to have at least 1/5, and possibly, depending upon how things shake out at VCARB, we could have as many as 25% of the grid will be made up of either rookies or drivers who are under the age of 20.
That's crazy.
So your thoughts on the differences between what the difference a year makes?
Oh, it's going to be huge. I mean, even before that, we had quite a bit of change too. So, and the year before that, really, last year was one of the only years that had absolutely no changes. Yeah, it was pretty surprising. Obviously, during the year we had a few updates or upstarts. So, I'm really excited. I love to see change in F1, especially seeing people as young as they are coming into the sport to see what they can bring to it. See how they handle the challenges, how they handle the circuits. And 2026 is a whole new ball game as far as the rules are concerned. So really excited to see all that happen. So it's just going to be an exciting time. What about you? How do you feel about it?
I think it is fantastic. I thought it was really cool, the fact that we had the unprecedented situation where we had no driver changes at all, not even drivers swapping seats between teams,
right.
which is unheard of, in Formula One. And now, but now, it was one thing to see, it would have been one thing if we had seen, a bunch of drivers like changing teams or things like that, where it was basically you were just, reshuffling the deck chairs, but now, I mean, we've got, some truly exciting young talents that are going to be driving next year. So we've got, the presumptive F2 champion in Borletto. We've got Behrman at Haas, who we've already seen, as a super sub this year, really, really impress. He's managed to score points in every single race that he's participated in this year. We've got Antonelli at Mercedes. We've got, although he hasn't been confirmed yet, I'd say it's probably a pretty good lock that Lawson will be in that second seat at VCAR, because right now that's the only seat that's still technically, quote unquote, up for grabs next season. But I think we can pretty much assume that, we're going to have Lawson in that seat, and we're going to have Jack Doohan, who's going to be taking over that seat at Alpine. So it's like we've got, 5 young drivers, who are going to be, in, joining the sport, next year, along with the other, drivers changing teams, with Sainz leaving Ferrari and going to Williams, a very resurgent Williams. We've got, a 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton, who's going to be leaving and going to Ferrari. It's like we've got all of these, shifts and everything that is just, I think it's going to make the 2025 season is like, it's, as exciting as this season has been, it's probably going to be even more so next season.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait. In 2026, I keep saying that, but with all the reg changes, I cannot wait for 2026. 2025
I can't.
Is going to be fun, but yeah. It's going to shake
especially
up a lot.
Yeah, and especially the latter half of 2025, because once you see, some of the other, non-driver personnel who are changing teams at the end of the season, i.e. Mr. Adrian Newey, plus, there's a lot of other ones that are going to be changing teams at the end of the season and everything, that they're not going to have a hand in the initial performance of the cars, but towards the back half of the season, as more and more of the upgrades come online, it's going to be spectacular. All right. So the next thing that we saw is that after the less than stellar performance out of Lewis Hamilton and out of the marked contrast at Mercedes between Lewis and George Russell, and some of the comments that Lewis had made after the Brazilian Grand Prix, there's a lot of people that are speculating that Lewis might be quitting Merc early to take and try to maybe like reset before he goes to Ferrari next year and stuff. But, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think that it'll actually happen? And if it does, what do you think? What does that say about Lewis's, mental state and his loyalty?
Yeah, I really, really hope that he does not do that, because to me, that would just be a small blemish on his otherwise stellar record. Just, that's like giving your employer 2 weeks and you leave after a couple of days. It's just things that you just don't do. It's just a horrible, horrible thing. You're going to leave this team that has treated you truly fairly well. I mean, you've won. You can argue
6 world championships with them,
championships under them. So to do that is just to spit in the face of that. Plus all the history that you have with this team, it's just, I think it would be highly unprofessional. So to me, I really hope that he does not do something like that.
I'm going to go out right now and I'm going to say it is not going to happen. When I saw these stories, I was like, there is no way, because like you said, just said it would be a mark on, it'd be really, truly unprofessional. Well, that's the thing, though, is that Lewis Hamilton is literally the consummate professional.
Yep.
When it comes to, everything that he does, he doesn't do anything halfway. And if he is signed on to drive from now until the last lap at Abu Dhabi, he is going to be out there giving it his
Right.
all the all the way through to the very bitter end. And then he will hug his mechanics. He will shake, Toto Wolff's hands and say, thank you for everything. And then he'll go climb into that Ferrari. But he is
Right.
not going to leave Mercedes early. The only way that I can see that happening is if he got hurt. If he had a bad shunt, right. Knock on wood that it doesn't happen. But if he has like a bad shunt or something, like hurts his, his elbow or his, something that is going to affect his driving, or his back, or something. That's the only way he's leaving Mercedes early. Otherwise, otherwise he's not leaving unless you drag him out by his heels.
Exactly. And that's the way. And really, there's 3 races left, man. I mean, if there was 10 races left, I don't know. But 3 races,
and look at it,
finish strong, boy. Just finish strong.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but it's like you've got the last 3 races of the year. It's like 2 of them, you've got Las Vegas, which he did very well at last year. He wasn't, in contention for a podium, but he went fairly well last year when they were still, coming, finally starting to come to grips with the car. And Abu Dhabi, which he absolutely loves. It's a track that he's won on multiple times. He absolutely loves that track. That, he is not going to want to go out as Brazil being his last race. He's not going to want that blemish on his record. That's just not the way that Hamilton is built.
Yep.
So he is going to want to go out on as high a note as possible. So he is going to go to Abu Dhabi and he is going to take and try to light it up like nobody's business. Yep. So no, I everything that I've seen about him possibly quitting or it's never going to happen. No matter how bad things get at Mercedes, he is going to be a professional and he's going to see it through to the end.
Yeah, I agree. I hope so. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So one thing, we were talking about the young drivers and everything, but now there, in the last week or so, there has been the news that Alpine has been, particularly Flavio Briatore has been inquiring about possibly making a driver swap before the 2024 season, or I'm sorry, the 2025 season even starts, and maybe in the fact that he would much rather have Colapinto in that second seat next to Gasly as opposed to having Jack Doohan. And your thoughts on Alpine? We saw this 2 years ago with Alpine trying to secure Oscar Piastri when he was already under contract with McLaren, and now possibly trying to sow some kind of chaos again. Your thoughts?
I mean, they already have a contract with the driver now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Colapinto has done some great things, but you've signed somebody already, and just like you always say, the ink is never dry in F1.
Exactly. There is no such thing, with the exception of maybe, a multi-world champion in Lewis Hamilton, maybe, and Max Verstappen, and maybe one or two other drivers. There is no such thing as an ironclad contract in Formula One, period.
You can only change a contract in F1 on days that end in Y.
Yeah. That's very good. That's very, very true.
So yeah, as far as that goes, I'm not a fan. There has to be some type of loyalty. Again, unless there's something that Doohan's done, his performance has slipped or anything like that, then maybe I could see that. But other than that, you got to go with your cards as you already have had them dealt. You can't ask
absolutely,
for a new hand, or you shouldn't ask for a new hand, because as a driver, I would always question, well, do I really want to go there? So at that point, you're going to start not really attracting the best of the best. They're not going to want to come drive for you.
Exactly. And there's a lot of people that are already speculating that there could be some problems, because there's, Briatore, as we've talked about, all of the scandals and everything that have surrounded his entire tenure, not just in Formula One, but in just his general business dealings in, anyway. There's a lot of people that are not real high on having Briatore back in the paddock in any kind of managerial position, that it's like, what kind of, discourse is this going to sow at Alpine?
Yeah.
You know,
Right. That's a legitimate question.
I think so.
Yeah. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. We'll see we'll see in the next couple of weeks how things shake out.
Yep.
All right. So like we talked about, we've got 3 races left. You know, we've got our last triple head of the season. So we've basically got a 3-race sprint to the end at Las Vegas, Qatar, and uh, Abu Dhabi. So let's take and talk real quick about the championship picture and and we'll kind of make a predictions on, you know, where we see things ending up. So your thoughts. So let's start with the constructors championship. First off, give me who you think is going to win the constructors, and then we'll talk about possible, and then I'll give my prediction, and then we'll talk about possible scenarios and how things could shake out. So your championship, constructors championship winner.
So I'm going out on a very large limb and say Ferrari's going to take it.
You think so? All right.
I'm going way out there because McLaren's strong. They have 2 fantastic drivers, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm looking at Ferrari and thinking, man, they're really close. They could take this, especially to the very close to the end like this. It's possible. And then obviously McLaren's second and Red Bull's third.
Yep. Okay. Well, I'm going to flip flop that. I do think that McLaren will win, but I do believe that it is going to literally come down to the last lap of the last race at Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
That's how tight it's going to be, because I think that it's like right now, the margin between McLaren and Ferrari is so razor thin that if either one slips up, the other one's going to be there to pounce. So, but the only, the only way that, so I think that it's going to be, a situation where it's like McLaren is going to be probably not quite charging for, or not charging is not the right word for it. They're not going to be as focused on trying to win. They're going to be more focused on trying to do, maximize points in the safest manner possible, and to gather as many points as they can between Lando and Oscar. So that's the way that I see it shaking out. Is it's literally going to come. It's really not going to come down to wins or losses. Unless McLaren. But there is a very good possibility that if McLaren screws up and they finish, 4th and 6th, while Ferrari are, first and second, on the top step of the podium, they could definitely leapfrog McLaren, but it's like, there's just it's going to have to be a situation of, in order for Ferrari to make up all the ground that they need to in order to surpass McLaren, it's going to have to be a situation where Ferrari is going to have to win, is going to have to come home first and second and have the fastest lap in the last 3 races, and McLaren's going to have to really slip back down the order. And that's the only reason why I don't see Ferrari being able to leapfrog them. But obviously you see something that I don't.
Maybe it's more of a hope than anything else.
But again, though, we've talked about it time and time again, though, about how Freddie over at Ferrari, as the team principal, has absolutely transformed the culture at Ferrari and has brought them back to being just a truly dominant world-class Formula One team again. And you got to give a lot of props to, what Freddie's done over there.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it now. They're 33 points behind McLaren. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's going to be a nail biter, but it's possible.
Yes.
Maybe not feasible.
Possible.
It is possible.
Yes, it is very possible. Like I said, it is literally going to come down to last lap of the last race. They're going to be jockeying for positions at Abu Dhabi in the closing stages of the race. And I guarantee you that that jockeying is what's going to end up deciding the Constructors' Championship. Your prediction of who's going to take the Drivers' Championship?
Definitely, it's going to be Max Verstappen. Again, the only thing that would prevent that at this point would be really some DNFs, and that's really the only way. There's 80 some odd points left. Verstappen is leading by 60 something points. So again, unless there's some serious DNFs, I just don't see it. So he'll lead, and then we'll have Lando in second, which would be his highest place in his career. So still, I mean, may not win it this year, but he's shown what a competitor and what a driver he is this year. So it'll be interesting moving forward.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be fantastic to watch the next few years, because we always knew that Lando had a lot of talent, and that in a lot of cases the McLaren let him down, whether it be on power or just bad timing. I mean, it's like, we got to remember that I think it was 2019 or 2020 where he very nearly won in Russia. And if it had not been for, the McLaren took the gamble to leave him out on slicks when it started to rain. And it's only, in a number of the other teams, chose to pit. And that was it was literally like 3 corners before the checkered flag when Lando took and kind of, lost the back end of the car just a little bit. And it was just enough, he still wound up on the podium, and then plus that brilliant drive the next year at Monza, where he finished runner up to his teammate, Ricciardo. It's just, we've known for a long time that he had a lot of talent, but this year has really been the coming out party for Lando, in the fact that now he is going to truly be, now that he finally has the car to do, to get the job done, he truly has announced that he is going to be a contender for many years to come.
Yeah.
But I'm like
I said, it's going to be exciting next year.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So coming back to this year's championship, though, I'm in agreement with you that Verstappen will win it, because like you said, there's too much ground, and especially after the brilliant performance by Verstappen 3 weeks ago at Brazil. There's just not enough time for, and enough points on offer. So but I really think that Verstappen is going to, with this 3-week break, I think Verstappen is going to come into Las Vegas with a renewed vigor. And I really think that he will clinch the championship this weekend. I really think that he will, because I was looking at, at some of the different scenarios and everything. And it's like, if Max wins the race this weekend, and I think it's Lando finishes, I think 4th or worse, the championship is his. If he wins and gets the fastest lap, even if Lando finishes, I think if I remember correctly at some of the scenarios I was looking at, I think that even if Max wins and gets the fastest lap, Lando finishes second, Max will still win the championship, or maybe he might have need 1 extra point or something like that. But yeah, so I really think though that because McLaren's playing more for the Constructors' Championship, they're going to do everything they can to put Lando in the best position to take and try to beat Max. But I think at the same time, the Constructors is more important because of the money that it provides for next year. That I think that they're going to be more focused on that. And it's going to be one of those situations where if it's the difference is letting one of the other cars go by to Max, just to get the maximum points that they can get for the weekend, as opposed to gambling on trying to take the win. I think that's what McLaren's going to do. And so I really think that because of that mindset, McLaren, I really think that Max will sew it up this weekend.
Yeah. It would be nice, honestly, to have that 4th one in his pocket.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so let's get on to our Las Vegas preview then. So, as we all know, they are back on the streets of Las Vegas for year 2 of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And there's been some notable, stories that have come out of events leading up to the race. Certain things that the organizers at the Grand Prix have put into place. They've said things like, they're going to limit the number of commitments that the drivers are going to have to take part in, because last year a lot of the drivers were, because they had them running pretty much nonstop all day long, doing to various events and everything. So they've cut back on that to take and try to give the drivers a little more downtime during the course of the weekend. And then plus they've moved the times still suck. I'm going to come right out and say it right now. This whole crap about starting it, the race at 10 o'clock local time, they don't even do that in Singapore or other places. Right. But the fact that they're doing that here in Las Vegas, it's better than midnight, local time, but only by the slightest margin. So that still is going to suck. And the fact that, the ridiculous times at which they're, running the practices and running the, qualifying the race and everything. But let's get on to, so we're going to start off with the same 4 questions that we always ask. So, Corey, question number 1, who do you think is going to go well this weekend with, the 3-week break? Who do you think is going to come out with a renewed vigor for these last 3 races, and particularly this weekend?
Yeah, I think you nailed it at the top. It was Max Verstappen's definitely going to have that. I think that Lando is going to be very short after that as well, because he sees this championship somewhat going through his fingers. So he knows that if he's not competitive, that something's going to happen. Something's not going to happen, I should say, for him. So I see them two definitely hitting this as hard as possible. But I see Ferrari and Mercedes very, very close to that as well. Especially with Sainz about to leave Ferrari. These are his last 3 races with the team. So I see him pushing really, really hard, trying to get there up in points as much as possible, because next year he's at Williams and he's pretty much facing that he's going to be a mid-tier team. So he wants to get as many points as possible so he can secure the highest place that he can.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that I do think that, Max is going to come out and he is going to grab, what's the metaphor I'm looking for? Max is going to come out of the gate really, really strong. This is a track that he pretty much dominated at last year. And I think that he's going to, with the 3-week break, like I said earlier, I think he's going to come out with a renewed vigor. And then plus with the thought of being able to, secure the world championship by, winning the race this weekend and making sure that Lando, finishes as far down as possible. He's going to want to try to do everything that he possibly can to secure the championship now, so that he's not going to have that worry going into the last 2 races of the year. So I think you're right that Verstappen will go very, very well this weekend. I think Lando's going to have something to prove after the debacle at Brazil, so I think he will go very well. And also I think, but I do think that you're right, that I think Ferrari, is also going to have, Sainz, especially after, all the issues that, with the torn up battery, last year, with the drain cover coming off and taking his car out and everything else. I think Sainz is going to really want to take, once again, he's going to be fighting hard. So I think we're going to have all the usual players at the top.
Yep.
All right, so who do you think is not going to go well this weekend?
Man, my typical is Alpine, but I'm gonna hold them back on this one because they proved me so wrong last race. But it's gonna be the usual. Kick Sauber is gonna be where they usually are. I don't think Williams is gonna do very well, even though their top line speed is pretty fast. I just don't see them doing very well on this track. So I think those two specifically are not going to do very well.
See, I'm going to go out and I'm going to say, I agree with you that Sauber's not going to do well. I'm pretty sure that, Aston Martin's not going to have a great weekend. And despite their, escalation in form over the last few weeks before this last break, I don't think Haas is going to have a very good weekend.
Yeah.
So, I don't have anything specific to point to. But just after, they had such a great showing up until they got to Brazil. And then I think that some of the issues from Brazil are still going to linger coming into this race. So I don't think Haas is going to have a very good weekend either.
Yeah, right.
So who's going to be your surprise this weekend?
My surprise is going to be, I'll just say it. It's going to be Haas. I have Haas on my brain now.
Sorry about that.
Because that's my go-to. It's always Haas.
Yeah.
There it has been for the last few podcasts, but I'll go ahead and say Alpine. Alpine is going to be my surprise. They're the dark horse right now.
I like it. And especially with their improvement in form. That's a good pick. Now, myself, I'm going to go out and where you said you didn't think Williams was going to look very good this weekend. I think that after, that was another team that had an absolutely miserable time in Brazil. Albon crashed out and wasn't even actually he crashed out in qualifying, wasn't even able to take part in the race. Williams is going, there's been rumors that Williams, may not even be ready, which I think is total bunk. Williams will be there, and I think they're going to come out with something to prove, especially Albon is going to come out of the gate with something to prove, and I think that they're going to have a very, very good weekend.
I hope so, man. Just for that team, I really do like Williams. I really hope that they do well. I hope I'm wrong.
Okay. All right, so who's your podium?
Podium, Max is going to be up there. He's going to be number one. I think that Lando is going to be a very close second. And I'm going to go ahead and stay with Sainz on number 3.
All right. So my podium, I'm in agreement with you in the fact that Max is, I think, like I said, I think Max is going to have some, is just going to want to lock things up, and he's going to be, on another level this weekend. So I have Max as my winner. I'm going to actually say Sainz is going to come in second, and I'm going to say Piastri is going to come in third.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Very nice.
So, all right. Okay. Very, very cool. All right. So I think we're done.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. So the sun is setting on our final break of the season, and Viva Las Vegas! Come back next week where we'll have a full breakdown of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Our tech corner will return, and Corey will once again melt my brain with his trivia, and we'll have another history lesson about Las Vegas. So until next time, he's Corey, I'm Scott. We are the pundits of F1 Brake Check. Let's go! Scott and Corey have left the building.
Thank you for listening to F1 Brake Check. If you have enjoyed what you heard, don't miss a single episode by hitting that subscribe button in your favorite podcatcher, or you can watch the video version on YouTube. Help us grow by sharing us with your friends and fellow F1 fans. You can contact us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok and X at F1 Brake Check. Our website is f1brakecheck.com, where you will find links to all our content. We value your passion and your feedback, so please take a moment to review our podcast. Your reviews help us grow and improve, and it means the world to us. Share your thoughts, rate us, and let us know how we can make the show experience even better. F1 Brake Check is a production of Brake Check Media. For your hosts Scott Vick and Corey Broom, until next time, keep yourself inside track limits, and try not to pitch it in the kitty litter.